A few months ago, I sat down, played through every GTA game, and made a YouTube video about it. GTA has a huge following with some passionate fans. I mean, you ask people who don't play GTA what it is, and yeah, they probably know what it is.
I've heard of Grand Theft Auto, it's a pretty big show.
But Rockstar Games has another series under their belt that many people consider even better than GTA. Today, I'm going to be taking a look at the Red Dead Redemption series. Lucky for me, there aren't as many titles as there are in the GTA series. On the other hand, these are some pretty meaty games. It took me twice as long to play through the 5 Red Dead titles than it did to play through the 13 GTA games. So, buckle up, baby. Fade and brush your horse and let's yeehaw right into it. The year is 2004. Facebook has just launched. The Boston Red Sox just won the World Series, Shrek 2 just hit movie theaters, and Red Dead Revolver just hit home consoles. Originally having been cancelled by Capcom, Rockstar San Diego was like, yo, I'll give you 2 sheeps for the rights to that game. Red Dead Revolver is a third-person action-adventure game where you play as a young man named Red Harlow. One fine day, his dad comes home talking about, my partner and I found gold, we're rich, y'all, but son, go play with your gun for a bit. And so we go through a pretty simple tutorial, shooting targets and whatnot, but then these goons show up and they're like, we're here to steal everything you got and kill you. And so we go on a killing spree. But alas, Red Harlow's parents don't survive the raid, but we do blow up this guy's arm, which is pretty cool. We get a time jump and Red is now a grown man wandering the dangerous roads of America, ? And he meets up with this shopkeeper who introduces us to the actual in-game shop where you can upgrade your current weapons or buy new weapons, new characters to play as in the co-op mode. And yes, this game has a co-op mode, but I didn't play it, oops. Anyway, the shopkeeper tells us he's got a limited stock because of a bunch of ruffians, and oh no, look, it's the ruffians, and then bang, bang, we turn in the group we killed, but the sheriff is like, I can't give you anything for this because we're broke as fuck because of this gang that's all over the town. And so Red just runs in there and kills them like, okay, sure, mass murder is cool. This guy named Ugly picks me up and shakes me like a dog. During all this, the sheriff is injured, and so Red's like, I'll take you to Brimstone. We walk around this train on the way to Brimstone, and I really like that you can just walk around the train talking to people, and yeah, most of them have their own thing going on. It's some good world building that you really would only expect to see this in a Rockstar game. Eventually the train gets robbed, but now Red's here and he kills all these troublemakers. There's this shootout and almost like a platforming level on top of the train, and this one is pretty fun, even if the kind of clunky controls make some parts a bit unfair. So we're finally at Brimstone, and the sheriff of Brimstone takes the sheriff of Shitsville to the doctors, and he's like, I have a job for a man like you. And yeah, these next few levels are pretty much just us being a bounty hunter. The first bounty being this guy named Pig Josh, and it took me a while to get the hang of what I'm supposed to do since I was kind of just running in there, but nah, you gotta stealth it. And I'm not even gonna lie, this boss fight is actually pretty intense because Pig Josh is always on the prowl for you, and if he sees you, he just rushes you and he does so much damage. But it's okay because we take him down and we free this guy who he enslaved named Jack Swift. And Jack Swift is like, I got a score to settle, and goes about his way. For the next level, we actually get to play as Jack Swift, and he saves this young lady and kills this teleporting demon clown and his goons. Yeah, the game gets a bit supernatural here and there, but it's, you know, as far as Rockstar games go, maybe this isn't the weirdest thing ever. Our next bounty is Bad Bessie, a gun-toting, man-killing cowgirl baddie. And again, another fun level where you platform up this mountain and hunt her down, followed by a boss fight where you face off against her goons before blasting her with your guns. The next bounty, Mr. Black, is hiding out in this abandoned town that feels more like a movie set. But the boss fight, which takes place in a cemetery, is also a highlight thanks to Mr. Black carrying a coffin that has a minigun inside of it. That's Dark Souls as fuck. And then when you kill him, he falls back inside the coffin, which I mean, that's stylish. Next, we're introduced to Annie Stokes, who is struggling to keep her ranch afloat thanks to the economy. Things only get worse for her when she gets back to her farm and she sees that it's under attack. So now we're playing as her as she saves her animals and takes down the invading vagabonds. Red visits her and they talk about some gold that she was originally talking to the banker about. But this gold is the same gold that Red's dad had discovered with his partner at the beginning of the game before both he and his wife got killed. Red, now on the hunt for the gold in the mountains, overhears some tomfoolery and of course engages in a pretty bloody gunfight at the bar. And at some point during all this, someone throws a fucking barrel at me. Red gets arrested for killing everyone in the bar, but while in jail, the arresting sheriff is like, wait a second, y'all Nate Harlow's son. I heard rumors you were alive, but I didn't believe it. And Red's like, tell me what you know about the death of my parents. The sheriff reveals that Javier Diego caught this man named Griffin and was like, trespasser, kill him. And Griffin was like, wait, I got gold, just let me live and I split it with you. And Diego is like, sheesh, I'm down. And Griffin is like, okay, but one problem, I already have to split it with my partner, Nate Harlow. And Diego is like, well, senor, I guess I'm gonna have to get your partner killed. I tried, why can't I give him the Mexican accent? I'm Mexican, this shouldn't be hard. The sheriff also reveals that Griffin has gold delivered to Diego in order to keep the army off his back. So Red goes out to stop the wagon delivering the gold. This level feels a bit more open. But really it's just a simple shootout where you shoot the wagon until it collapses. Diego and Colonel Darren, who by the way has a goddamn cannon for an arm, get Red knocked out. And they're like, we got questions for him. Tie him up. Send him to the gold mine. All the while, someone is watching from up above. It's revealed that this mysterious man is Shadow Wolf, who is Red's cousin. And now, we're playing as Shadow Wolf as he makes his way through a forest trying to reach Red. Now, this mission is meant to be played as stealthy as possible, considering Shadow Wolf has a bow and an arrow with a pretty low rate of fire, but we fight this man named Grizzly who has way too much health and he like chases me non-stop and I didn't really know what to do besides run and scream. It was here where the USB for my Elgato decided to fuck up completely, but I didn't notice until I finished the game, so please enjoy this lower quality recording of the gameplay. Shadow Wolf frees Red and Red escapes the gold mine and we're given another stealth mission. Shadow Wolf frees Red and Red escapes the gold mine and we're given another stealth mission until it stops being stealth. For this next mission, we play as Buffalo Soldier, who was freed alongside Red in the gold mines, and he tries to get to Brimstone to warn Governor Griffin of Diego's arrival. We get this mission where we need to protect the stagecoach taking us to Brimstone. This mission is whatever. It's a typical escort mission, but once Buffalo Soldier gets there, he's like, Governor, Diego's on his way, you need to prepare. And Griffin's like, yeah, Diego's my homie, and has Buffalo Soldier taken away. Meanwhile, Red and Shadow Wolf attack Diego's camp and face off against Colonel Darren. Shadow Wolf is injured and Diego tries to escape on a train. We chase him down and kill him. Once we're back at Brimstone, all the characters unite to take part in this yearly Battle Royale event in order to get some money. But behind the scenes, Griffin and his new assistant Kelly have rigged the game to get Red killed. But Red is able to team up with Jack and Annie to finish off Kelly and then go through like a lot of fucking boss fights before finally facing off against Griffin. Griffin reveals he sent the men to attack Annie's barn and that he still has Nate's gun, and Red exacts his revenge, taking part in some kind of Red Dead Redemption of sorts. At the end, they give Red the winning money, but he decides to give it to Jack and Annie, walking off and saying, "It was never about the money." The end. Red Dead Revolver never reaches the levels of its sequels, which is a shame because it's clunky and it's definitely a game of its time, but it's also a Rockstar game through and through, with extra effort in certain places that other games would have brushed over and not given a second thought. The story itself is small scale. It's, all things considered, a typical revenge story, but any other developer would have made us play as Red the whole time and introduced these side characters just to kind of like sideline them until the final battle. Red Dead Revolver, on the other hand, it lets us play as these characters, even if it's just once, so we can actually see their adventures. These side character moments make this game feel bigger. It kind of reminds me of the movie Holes, and how on the surface it's basically a simple movie about a camp and some treasure hidden somewhere out there. They could have easily had the villain sit in a room with the main character and explain the backstory of the land, but instead we spend time with all these historic characters and watch them go through some intense stuff, and by the end of the story, when everything gets wrapped up, it feels like we just witnessed this big epic western. In a lot of ways, Red Dead Revolver succeeded in that. When Red, Jack, Annie, Shadow, and Buffalo team up at the end, the story feels epic and grand in scale, even if we're just going from arena to arena, just shooting a bunch of enemies. The combat itself feels fantastic. The melee combat is wonky, but the shooting is where it's at. The controls take some getting used to. You push L1 to pull out your gun, but you have to hold it down to keep the gun in your hand. Letting go of L1 puts the gun away, but if you don't like that, then you can always change the settings and just tap the button. When holding L1 to have the gun in your hand, you push R1 to shoot normally. Every character has a special attack that you can use by pushing R2. You can only use it once before you need to wait a few seconds to use it again. Red's special attack is that he locks on a lot before unleashing a fury of bullets on enemies. Jack Swift's is like the same thing, except he has dual wield pistols. Annie's special is that her normal bullets become explosive bullets and deal way more damage. Diego is able to lock onto an enemy or location and drop an airstrike, but this one is more objective based since you only do it once and it's for a specific objective. Shadow Wolf is able to shoot fire arrows that do some pretty hefty damage to groups. Buffalo Soldier, I would be lying if I said I used his special ability at any point. The level designs are also pretty impressive. The mountains, when you go after Bad Bessie, has a bunch of almost platforming-like segments. You need to avoid boulders being thrown at you, tons of areas to take cover, and all the backgrounds look detailed enough to immerse you. The one that doesn't feel real per se is the one that takes place in the abandoned town. I get that the whole point is that the town was destroyed by these goons, but there's just something about it that feels kind of phony. And the music. Oh lordy lord, the music. I wish I could play the music, but I honestly don't know what's copyright and what's not. So we gotta just cope with having these discounted cowboy beats in the background that hopefully recapture the feeling of being a cowboy, baby. But if you play this game for any reason at all, do it for the music. Do it for the music. Good God, do it for the music. Overall, Red Dead Revolver is a fantastic start to the series, with memorable characters, a fun story, well-aged graphics, complex but easy to grasp controls, and some top-notch music. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of cowboy media, a fan of Red Dead as a series, or a fan of arcade-like shooters. Now, as we all know, for their next entry, Rockstar Games kinda set the bar for open world games. Cutting down on the more fantastical elements, they delivered a slower, more realistic journey through the West. Red Dead Redemption. And I'm not gonna lie, this was my first time playing through it. And I'm also not gonna lie, I don't actually know if I like it or not. The year is 2010. It's been 6 years since Red Dead Revolver's release. Shakira just released Waka Waka. Instagram was born. Toy Story 3, The Social Network, and most importantly, the Twilight Saga Eclipse were all released in theaters. And Rockstar Games developed a little western video game known as Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Revolver took place somewhere in the 1880s. Red Dead Redemption is further on down the timeline, taking place in 1911. You play as John Marston, a retired outlaw who just wants to live a quiet, peaceful life with his family. But the government comes along and is like, no, Mr. Marston, you're gonna help us hunt down and kill your old gang, and in return, we're gonna give you your family back. And from the opening moments, the difference in quality from the first game is immediately noticeable. We got this somber piano theme playing as the opening credits fill the screen. John Marston sits in the train all angry and moody looking as he listens to the conversations around him. People talking about what it means to be good and evil, if sins can truly be forgiven, and if bad people are truly bad or just lost. Yeah, this game gets profoundly deep, even though on the other hand, this is the same game where we step off the train and head to the saloon, where we meet up with a man named Jake, who guides us to Fort Mercer, where our first target waits, Bill Williamson. Words are said, guns are aimed, and John Marston is shut down. Game over, roll credits. I wanna be a cowboy, but I'm fucking dead. Yeehaw! A few days later, a farmer named Bonnie wakes him up after helping him recover. Now Bonnie, she's a great character. Fantastic character. She's strong, she's brave, she's witty, but good God if I didn't dread seeing the little bee on the map, because I knew it was almost always going to be some of the most boring shit ever. Now, I'm not going to get into it right now because we got to cover the story first, and with that being said, I know it's the tutorial. The game isn't going to come out guns blazing like most games do today, but holy shit, does this game have one of the slowest first few hours I've ever played in a video game. Now, before you all get your pitchforks and torches, we're going to put a pin in that, and I'll explain more in detail later. For now, let's get back to the story. We help Bonnie around the farm, making sure no coyotes attack the animals, partake in a little horse race where my horse fucking kills himself and takes me with him. Bonnie tells us to visit the marshal if we're trying to get close to Bill, so we take a break from the farm life and go do that. A little bit of man-on-man action later, and we head out with the marshal to take down some bounty baddies. We take a trip with Bonnie to the shop and buy some medicine for ourselves. This lady gets randomly attacked, so I decide to help her out. I buy a room, I take a nap, I admire the night sky because god damn it looks good. And then these random dudes come in guns blazing and I take him down, because why not? I talk to this lady whose son is missing, and it's like, okay, let's go find him. We investigate the suspicious area that has some blood, and well, that's that for now. John helps out the marshal, takes out these no-gooders, and it's this big-ass shootout in between these mountains. After this, the marshal tells John about Mr. Wes Dickens, a tonics vendor who has gone missing. There's this cutscene with this intense cow action. John opens up to Bonnie about his past, and she's like, you want to help me herd some cows? So we do that, and I hate that. Good God, do I hate that. We meet Bonnie's dad, and he's like, help me catch some horses. This isn't as bad, whatever. After this, there's this pretty bad storm, and Bonnie's like, we gotta get the herd, so we gotta do that again. And lordy lord, I can't stand doing this. I head over to the marshals, where there's a man crying about his wife going missing. I go investigate this little same area. Another little pool of blood. That's it for now. While heading over to the next mission, I accidentally run into a gang hideout, and it's like, oh, what's this? So I kill them all, and I loot their stuff. John finds Wes Dickens, and he's dying, so we gotta rush him to the doctors while being careful not to crash, because that'll kill him. After dropping him off, I decided to go to the local theater and watch this boring-ass movie where the only interesting part was this one where this guy starts making love to a tree. The marshal needs us to head out with him to take down a group of violent bandits, and we get to a pretty disturbing level where the bandits tortured and murdered almost an entire family. We run through the house, killing the bandits and saving the remaining family members. John and Bill have a quick face-off where Bill sends even more bandits after us. After this, Bonnie can't find her father. We find him investigating this bloody scene where he tells us to get the wagon back on the farm, but uh-oh, someone set the farm on fire. John climbs up the barn to get inside and free the horses. After this mission, I decided to explore the town for a bit, which was a mistake because this man was calling me and I was trying to answer him, which is a thing you can do in the game, but I accidentally aimed my gun at him instead. We meet up with Mr. Wes Dickens, who is leaving the doctor's office after his near-death experience, and he needs us to go with him to help him scam people out of their money, since the tonics he sells, they're all fake, they don't do shit. I run into this lady from the start of the game, except she's dying, but she doesn't want us to help because her faith is gonna get her through it. You're supposed to bring her some medicine, but I kinda just left her there. I'm sure she died. But who cares about her, because Bonnie gets kidnapped and we gotta go save her, and when we find her she's being hung, so we gotta shoot her down and take everyone down, and yeah, happy endings. After heading back to town, John finds this woman crying and she tells us that her husband is missing. We go to investigate the area, but instead of finding blood puddles like before, we find a limping man who's like, help me, this crazy man just broke my leg and ran off. And we find the man running away, we tie him up, we bring him back to the limping man, and then we get this wild reveal.
Hey fella!
You broke this poor fool's leg, mister.
This maniac tried to eat me! We've got cannibals in these here hills! Please help me!
What?
Please!
Fella's gotta eat now. Fella's got to eat.
Save me from this freak, please! Please!
And for some reason, John just walks away, and then we get the choice on whether or not to save the man. Which, yeah, I saved him. I killed the cannibal. You know, I'm a good guy sometimes. We meet with this man named Seth, who is friends with dead people. We need to help him in order for him to help us. Wes Dickens tells us to participate in a race so he can sell more tonics. There's this guy named Irish, who is Irish and always drunk, and he's supposed to help us find a machine gun in order to attack Fort Mercer, which is where Bill is. And look, this entire part of the game is John running around like, hey, help me attack this fort, and the other person being like, okay, help me first. And that just kind of happens over and over and over and over again. So we attack Fort Mercer, and it's kind of just, okay, moving on, a lot of build up, but whatever. Bill escaped and ran off to Mexico to meet up with Javier Escuela, another member of John's old gang. And it's off to Mexico in one of the most slowest, boring, on-rails shootouts that drags on for so long. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty thrown off by the whole Civil War plot that takes place here, but I decided to give it a chance. And well, I wasn't a fan. But we'll get into that later. Basically, there's this civil war between Colonel Augustine Allende, who's a psychotic, murderous,
Dámelo! Besito! Besito! Don't be so conventional! Look at that ass, huh? Magnificent!
yeah. And Abraham Reyes, the leader of the rebellion going against Allende. John does missions for both sides while trying to get information on Javier's location, until Allende betrays John, but he's rescued by Abraham. Together, they hunt down Javier, who then reveals that Bill is under Allende's protection. But it's no issue, because after some more killing, we find them both and we shoot them like a dog. Abraham leads the revolution onward while John heads back to the United States. Thinking that it's all over, John is ready to be reunited with his wife and son. But nah, now we need to take down Dutch Vanderlyn, the leader of John's old gang. Against his wishes, he decides to help, and yeah, the next few missions consist of tracking down Dutch. At one point, I stopped to watch another movie, and this one was about women trying to vote and men putting a stop to it with the tagline, "Don't turn Uncle Sam into Aunt Samantha." I'm gonna move on, because anything I say here, I'm gonna just move on. But before we can do that, I have some explaining to do. Somewhere, while recording the footage, I realized I had lost an hour of footage, but I didn't know where or what it was. I just knew I was missing a certain footage, certain part of the game. Well, I found it, and it's the entire final battle and Dutch's death scene. So yeah, enjoy this.
My whole life, all I ever did was fight.
Then give up, Dutch.
I can't give up, neither.
John is reunited with his family, and we get some really god-awful boring missions with his wife and his son. We get to teach his son how to herd cows, which, oh great, I was hoping there would be another one of these. Bonnie meets Abigail, John's wife, and yeah, Bonnie was all in love with John. We get this little sad moment. And then the army invades John's farm with Agent Ross leading the attack, and John is shot down in a pretty brutal scene. Think it's over, but nah. A few years later, now we're playing as his son, Jack Marston. He goes around finding information on where to find Agent Ross so he can exact revenge. A kind of Red Dead Redemption, if you will. Cue the credits. This game is known by many to be one of the greatest video games of all time, and also one of Rockstar's best video games to date. In a lot of ways, I agree. But in a lot of other ways, let's start with the story. What a story. When this game was released, it was Rockstar's most complex story up to that point. It starts off with the simplicity from Red Dead Revolver, a man trying to reunite with his family by stopping some bad people. While Red Dead Revolver had us switching to the side characters to expand its world, Red Dead Redemption develops the side characters through some entertaining cutscenes and top-tier dialogue. We actually get to know these characters and learn to care about them. And once the story goes off the rails in Mexico, the characters are still so entertaining and over the top while still being developed and humanized in a lot of ways. Even the characters that feel the most over the top, like Seth, Irish, and Wes Dickens, they kinda all have one main character trait: weird, drunk, and scummy, but they all provide these moments where they either help out John during a desperate time or give us a glimpse at their more vulnerable side. That doesn't stop the game from also having this realistically cold outcome for some of these characters. Take Luisa, for example. You meet her during your time in Mexico, and she's pretty dependent on you. She asks you to save her sister, she asks you to help her lead an assault, but she's also deeply in love with Abraham, convinced that they're going to fall in love and get married. When Abraham gets kidnapped, the only reason we even go save him is because Luisa tells us to. We spend a lot of time with her and learn her backstory, her dreams, her fears, so when she gets killed off out of nowhere in a split second and the game just moves on, it does admittedly hit you a little bit. You're kind of like, whoa, we're just leaving it there? And it only gets worse when Abraham struggles to even remember her name. Yeah, it turns out the leader for the Rebel Alliance is a self-centered piece of mierda, but at the same time, we spend some somber moments with him that show that he's still a human underneath all that self-centeredness. There's a lot to unwrap when it comes to these characters' personalities, and the writing elevates that to such a high level. I think it's the best part of the game. But it's a shame that the story beats themselves are honestly kind of tedious for a majority of the time. A lot of the missions are just, do a favor for me and I'll do a favor for you. A lot of the game is long rides with long conversations, and when the game is done being this over-the-top shooter, the final battle when you're playing as Jack is nothing more than a conversation with Ross, followed by using Deadeye to shoot him down. In a lot of ways, it's unsatisfying and anticlimactic, but in a lot of other ways, it's been debated if that's the point, because revenge never feels as good as you expect it to. Even then, after you finish the main story and see the credits, you can keep playing as Jack Marston and finish side missions with unique dialogue exclusive to him, and it even feels like this continuation, like Jack trying to move on now that the past is over and done with. On one hand, the quieter character-driven moments that stand out are followed by some of the most boring missions, such as herding livestock so many times, walking around making sure things are peaceful, or some really boring and clunky feeling segments where you're stuck to a machine gun. On the other hand, these boring moments make the best moments in the game stand out more than ever, the crazy over-the-top shooting missions. When I hear people call Red Dead Redemption one of the all-time greats, aside from the memorable characters, it's the gunplay that stands out. When you're chasing down bounties, when you're in these intense war-torn battlefields, the shooting feels so good. The controls are way more simplified than in Revolver, but they're also way smoother. You get this Deadeye ability where time slows down and you can manually shoot down a bunch of targets at once, and I'm gonna admit it, I am absolutely garbage at using it, so never expect to see any impressive gameplay from Deadeye on my game. I'm a simple man, okay, one target at a time. I got shaky hands. Different guns control differently, obviously, but even the way they shoot, pistols make you feel like this cowboy badass, running from cover to cover and taking down enemies, watching them ragdoll down in extremely satisfying ways. Shotguns from up close make you feel like this overpowered beast. The controls here, especially for a 13-year-old game, feel like they've barely even aged. And the same goes for the graphics. Like, let's start with the character models. The game came out in 2010. Look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which came out 3 years ago. Now, I love that game. The gameplay is fun, the combat is fun, but it's wild to me that the animations during cutscenes, and in a lot of ways the character models, look so much more dated than Red Dead Redemption. Before we keep going, I should clarify that I did not buy the newest port on the PlayStation 5. All my captured footage is from my PS3 copy, played on a PS3, and yet this game still looks amazing. There's moments where I would be playing and I just had to stop to appreciate the characters and more so the environments. Holy shit, do the environments in this game still look mind-blowing. The way the clouds move naturally, the color of the sky sometimes, the way the world looks during thunderstorms, the dark eerie feeling when you're riding around at night, when the sun is behind the sky and causes some unique lighting. Dude, I want to live here. Kinda, sorta, not really, but it's so nice to look at. And again, the music, oh, chef's kiss. Again, can't play any of it due to a fear of copyright, but this series so far has to have some of my favorite music in any series ever, besides Zelda. And that's my experience with Red Dead Redemption. Obviously, I'm just scratching the surface, but there's so much to this game. I haven't even scratched the surface on side activities, hunting animals, poker, and so on, but that's mostly because that's not really what interests me. If you go in wanting to be a hunter, wanting to be a poker champion, you can totally do that, and that's what makes it so great, is that you can do that. But I was just trying to be a sick cowboy with a cool story, and yeah, I mostly got that. I love this game. It definitely isn't one of my favorites, and I still don't know if I'd call it one of the greatest ever, but I can see why it gets that title so frequently, while also being pretty sure that I'm never going to want to play it again. And the same kind of goes for the next entry, Undead Nightmare. A few months after the release of Red Dead Redemption, Rockstar released the only DLC for it, Undead Nightmare, just days before Halloween. I mean, it's impressive enough that this DLC released just 5 months after the actual game, but then you see the amount of new content, and hot diggity dog, Rockstar, y'all really used to pour everything into each release when you weren't just working on the same online service for 10 years, huh? Undead Nightmare is a non-canon side story that takes place when John is reunited with his family before Ross and company come to kill him. He's spending some quiet time with his family when they're all attacked one by one by each other and turned into flesh-eating zombies. John, being the last remaining member of the family, goes out to figure out what's going on and find a cure for his family. While he's out and about, he discovers that things are pretty bad all over the country, running into families that are at each other's throats, and tons of familiar characters from the original game, most of which die in pretty comedic ways.
I'm going to wander down that lonely, deserted street and get my bag.
A few moments later.
In all honesty, there's not much to the story in this game. You're kind of just going from character to character trying to figure out what exactly is going on and seeing how they're dealing with the epidemic. But the writing here is, as always, top notch. The random side characters you run into who spend all their time fighting deliver some entertaining and funny lines, and seeing the asshole characters get brutally murdered by zombies when you just kind of watch, yeah, that's gold. When you meet up with Seth, who in the original game was obsessed with dead people and got along with them more comfortably than real people, and you see that he's getting along with the zombies, I mean, that's just grade A clever writing right there. Or when you meet up with Wes Dickens, who is now selling tonics that he says help cure the zombie infection, but whenever someone drinks it, all the zombies are immediately attracted to that person and attack them. They take all the characters from the original game and do the most that they can with their traits and make it feel like they have their own thing going on. Nobody feels shoehorned in for the sake of a cameo thanks to the writing. You get to Mexico and realize that the reason the zombie apocalypse started was because Abraham Reyes, the leader of the Mexican rebellion, stole an Aztec treasure and cursed the land. The game has this epic feeling finale when you go back into the Aztec caves to return the treasure and you have to fight off waves of the undead, but everything goes back to normal until a few months later after John is killed by Ross. Seth steals the treasure again, which brings John back as a zombie, and yeah, now you get to just run around and play as Zombie John. Roll credits. The story is way more simplified and comedic for obvious reasons, but even the mission structure I feel is a bit more fun than the main game. Gone are the slow character building missions where you herd animals and listen to long conversations while traveling across open fields. This game's focus is entirely more on blasting away different zombies and fighting waves in graveyards to clear out the area. It's faster paced and the combat gets to truly shine here. The different types of zombies also help deliver a touch of strategy in how you approach the waves. There's this regular one that gets killed quickly with a shot to the head, the fatter zombies that take more hits and can tackle you, spitters which spit out acid at you and do some longer term damage, and my personal favorite, crawlers. These guys are low to the ground, really fast and loud, and constantly made me jump while playing the game due to randomly being attacked by them on screen or even turning around and seeing them rushing towards me, which gave me a very not fun feeling in my tummy. Every town in the game needs to be cleared out, and these moments are all fun, along with clearing out graveyards by burning the graves themselves, which again is a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much Undead Nightmare, a simple but entertaining story, also packed with tons of fun gameplay. It's definitely not as deep or provocative as the original game, but it's not trying to be. It's trying to be this fun, sometimes spooky adventure with tons of tense and loud moments, and yeah, it absolutely delivers on that. If you love the original game or just want a fun creative horror adventure, then I can't recommend this game enough. It took 8 years for Red Dead Redemption 2 to come out after Red Dead 1, and in between that time we got some pretty hefty releases. Red Dead 2 came out after GTA 5, but before the definitive trilogy. Red Dead 2 takes place in 1899, being a prequel to John Marston's story and introducing us to his old gang and the events that led to Ross and the government wanting the gang dead. This time around we play as Arthur Morgan, a member of the gang that obviously doesn't make it because he's never even mentioned in the first game, so there's no way that his death will be surprising or have any effect on me at all. When the game starts, the gang is struggling to get through a snowstorm while running away from the cops, or as they're called in this game, Pinkertons, after a robbery had gone wrong. We get to see some familiar faces, none more famous than Dutch Vanderlyn, the leader of the gang and one of our antagonists in the first game. We search for some help in the cabin, only to find that the people inside are none other than the O'Driscolls, which are Dutch's direct rivals. We get into the shootout that serves as the first of many tutorials. After the shootout, we meet Sadie Adler, who lived in the cabin with her husband until the O'Driscolls came along and killed him and held her as hostage. We bring Sadie Adler back with us, and Rockstar, we need a spin-off about her, please. She is hands down my favorite character in the entire series. I am begging you. We spent some more time in the snow waiting for it to thaw out so we can head out to civilization. We save an injured and lost John Marston. We learn to hunt, attack some of the O'Driscolls, tie up and take one of the O'Driscolls who goes by the name of Kieran with us. During the attack, we learn about a train owned by a Leviticus Cornwall that might have some valuable product on it, so we head out to attack it. One successful-ish robbery later, and it's time to head out to civilization. And the game gets a bit more open here, and usually yes, I'm all for explaining the story beat for beat, but considering the game took me almost 60 hours to complete, instead I'm going to give a more condensed version of the story and work from there. Basically, the gang finds this area known as Horseshoe Overlook, and they get to know the area. We help some people in need, things go wrong while out and about. I bought a horse and I tried to name him I'm Gay, but I guess that's profanity, so I named him I Like Men instead. Not even 5 minutes later, I crashed and he was dying, and he was in so much pain, and I felt so horrible that I reloaded my entire game immediately. Eventually, we save Sean, one of the gang members that was taken in by the Pinkertons. He's very talkative and he provides a nice levity to the camp. I like him, and I sure hope nothing bad happens to him. There's this mission where the always drunk Reverend Swanson, another missing member of the gang, finds himself stuck on these train tracks, and we gotta bust a mission to save his life. There's Strauss, a moneylender. He lets people borrow money, and he gives us the task of going out and collecting that owed money, whatever means necessary. Skipping ahead a bit, Kieran, the O'Driscoll that we kidnapped, gives us the location of Colm O'Driscoll, leader of the O'Driscoll gang. And after saving Arthur's life, the gang kind of grows fond of him. I hope nothing bad happens to him. Lenny, one of the younger members of the gang, aside from the actual child, shows up in a panic talking about how he almost got lynched, and they arrested Micah, who is probably one of the worst characters in video game history. I hate this man, but we'll get to that later. For now, we're tasked with giving Lenny a fun evening at a saloon, spending some time with him, and he's a great character. I hope nothing bad happens to him. Eventually, we get too drunk and see a bunch of Lennys everywhere. It leads to a kerfuffle with the Pinkertons, and we wake up the next day throwing up, and in Silent Hill, I guess? Jesus. After saving Micah and killing an entire town and busting a few robberies, Arthur goes fishing with a young Jack Marston, but the government shows up like, yeah, we know you're in the area, you're all wanted men, and we'll kill you all, or you can turn in Dutch Vanderlyn and y'all can get away. Arthur denies the offer and hurries back to camp, where it's time to move out. But first we rob a train to get some money to support the gang in these trying times. There's this mission, we need to herd these sheep, and I still hate these missions, but I'm pretty sure this is the only one in the game, so thank you for that, Rockstar. Eventually, the gang reaches their new hideout, Clemens Point. Dutch and Arthur very quickly prove to the local sheriff that they are able to uphold the law and provide some muscle for the dangerous area. In reality, they're just using this to scout the area and see what they can rob, considering everyone in this area is kind of stupid. There's this Romeo and Juliet-like plotline involving two rival families who are both rich, and they each have a son and a daughter who are in love with each other, and they communicate by using Arthur to send letters for each other. We start working for both of the rich families while sabotaging the other. This goes about as good as you'd expect, as after tons of robberies and killings that definitely draw attention to them, One of the families retaliates and kidnaps Jack Marston, which ends in this huge bloody shootout. And as expected, this leads Ross and Milton of the Pinkerton Detective Agency right to the gang's exact location. And after a tense face-off and departure, the gang immediately makes their move to their new home, my personal favorite, Saint Denis. Saint Denis, or Saint Denis? Whatever, is different from what the gang is used to. It's the first peek at the rising world of Western civilization. Tall buildings with lights powered by electricity that keep the streets glowing at night. Fancy fences with parks and benches and a little trolley that you can sit inside of and ride and enjoy the view. Good things don't last though, since the gang is still trying to figure out where Jack Marston is, and after killing the Braithwaite family earlier and leaving the mother and leader of the gang all alone, they learn that she sold Jack to Angelo Bronte, who just happens to live in St. Denis, and he's pretty much in charge of the area. The tension is cut short when Angelo forms a very uneasy friendship with Dutch. Jack is given back to John. Angelo invites the gang to a party where they spend time collecting intel on people they could rob. The gang heads back home and throws a little shindig. Then my horse, I Like Men, as you may remember him, gets stuck inside the camp, and anytime I would try to move him, Arthur would immediately hop off since you can't keep the horse inside the actual camp. So I was just very confused by this whole thing, and I decided to load up the game again. Gee willikers. It was here that I decided to upgrade to a new horse. I named him Igiola. After some more exploring and killing, we're introduced to Rain Falls and his son, Eagle Flies, two Native Americans trying to fight for their land to be returned to them from the United States government. Rain Falls uses a more peaceful, methodical approach, while Eagle Flies is tired of the peaceful approach and is ready to use violence to get back what's theirs. This is important for later, okay? Take notes. At this point, I decided Arthur's hair was getting a bit too long, and I gave him a slick little haircut. And after I gave him this haircut, I found myself like loving him. Like I want him to ravage Mob. The O'Driscolls leading an all-out attack on the hideout, in which they barely get away. After all this, Arthur goes off to help Rainfalls and Eagle Flies on their different paths on getting their land back. The game turns into a fucking horror game out of nowhere. Dutch and the gang get revenge on Angelo Bronte after he gave them permission to steal a bank in the town, and then he sent the entire Pinkerton army after them. Dutch feeds Angelo to an alligator, crocagator. With Angelo dead, the gang try to steal from the Saint Denis Bank, the biggest bank in the country, and Hosea, who up to this point was the voice of the reason in the group, gets killed, along with Lenny shortly after. The gang gets separated, John gets captured, a group of them including Dutch and Arthur hide on a ship with a plan to return for the rest of the group, but because these guys have the worst luck imaginable, the ship crashes after hitting a storm and big waves, and the group gets stranded on the island of Guarma, and lucky for them, there's a civil war going on that they find themselves in the middle of. A bunch of set pieces and torture scenes later, the group are able to get back to America, but with the hideout abandoned. It doesn't take long to reunite with the rest of the group. Reunions are cut short when Ross finds the group and unleashes his wrath upon our poor cowboys who barely survived the attack. Beaten down and battered, the group desperately make their way to Beaver Hollow, a dark and dangerous hideout surrounded by dangerous redneck cannibals and the KKK, because why the fuck not? Molly O'Shea, who has been Dutch's love interest up until this point, admits to snitching out the gang way back during the robbery that got Hosea and Lenny killed. With the group barely hanging on and Arthur on the brink of death because... Arthur is on the brink of death because remember how Strauss would lend people money and then ask for it back? Whatever it took, usually sending Arthur to do the dirty work. Well, one of the men Arthur went after was sick with tuberculosis. And back during these days, that'll kill you, as it did with that man. But also it didn't help that Arthur, i.e. you, the player, beat him to a pulp while he was sick, which basically finished him off. But not before he got his saliva all over Arthur, who now has tuberculosis too and is slowly dying throughout the game. Sadie and Arthur head out to scope the prison where John is being kept and make a plan of attack. Strauss sends Arthur to collect more debts, where he runs into the son of the man with tuberculosis that Arthur killed. Now the son is working in a mine with people who are frequently harassing him and like assaulting him. Arthur gets the son out of there and reunites him with his mom, who, by the way, in order to make ends meet since the death of the husband that Arthur, i.e. you, the player, caused, has been selling her body to random men, which is why the son even got the shitty mining job in the first place. Nah, you for real ruined this family's life. While heading back to camp, a bunch of cannibals ambush me, which I mean, it can't help Arthur's mood, right? I'm sure he's mad now. And he is, which is why when he gets back to camp, he kicks Strauss out, rightfully so. We break John out of prison, only for Dutch to seem upset that John is back, but more important matters are at hand, as they overhear Ross and Leviticus Cornwall are planning about stopping Dutch. And they shoot Cornwall like a dog, and things go as bad as you predictably expect. Later on, they learn that Como Driscoll is going to be hung for his crimes. Hanged for his crimes? That's correcting me and telling me that hanged is the appropriate term. Como Driscoll is going to be hanged for his crimes, but since he's a master of escaping the law, Dutch, Sadie, and Arthur show up to make sure that things go smoothly. They don't, but also they go smoother than any other event so far, considering Colm is hung and killed. Eagle Flies is killed during a big shootout where Dutch was planning on leaving Arthur behind, so loyalty, huh? And the gang all turn on each other. Arthur helps John and his family escape and then goes after Micah, but is left for dead when he gives in to his injuries and his sickness. And it's sad and it's depressing, and I knew it was gonna fucking happen, but like my daily beatings, I was hoping it wouldn't happen for once. A few years later, and we take control of John Marston as he tries to get his life back on track with his family. This part serves as the epilogue, and I've actually seen a lot of discourse online over whether this part overstays its welcome and even ruins the game for some people. Personally, I don't mind it. I actually like seeing what John's life was like directly before the events of the first game, and we help John build a house. Don't get me wrong, some of these missions are easily the slowest part of the game, but there's also this new gang or group. I can't remember the name, but they're definitely terrifying, and they do a good job of being a small but effective villain during the epilogue. We go on bounty hunting missions with Sadie, and when Sadie finally hears about Micah and Dutch hiding out somewhere, they go to exact revenge, with everyone sustaining some bad injuries and Dutch seeing the error of his ways. He kills Micah before walking off. John reunites with his family, and we get a few moments during the credits showing Ross and Milton tracking down John right before they hired him as their own personal gunslinger during the first game. And that's the plot of Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's definitely not the story. Like I said earlier, if I sat down and talked about every single thing that happened to me while playing this game, we'd be here for who knows how long. But the actual story, the domino chain of events that set off the next small event before the big one, they are all so memorable. Red Dead Redemption 1 had tons of missions that felt like, okay, let's finish this mission and get to the next one. Hopefully that will be one where I actually want to play, until I eventually got to a fun mission with some arcade-like shooting, and even then, the story itself was nothing more than do a favor for me and I'll do a favor for you. In this game, every single story mission feels like an event, even when you're not actually doing anything big. I think it comes down to the perfect set of characters with layers upon layers to their personalities, and the writing being the absolute best in Rockstar's catalog. We'll talk more about the characters later. For now, using Red Dead Redemption 1 as an example again, there were a lot of well-written moments that I think really showed how good the characters and the writing were, with the downside being the actual mission. Some of my favorite missions in Red Dead 2, meanwhile, were the slower ones. The ones where Arthur and Lenny go to a bar is this fun elevation of chaos and comedy. There's this mission early on where Arthur and Hosea decide to hunt a bear, but it's a journey just getting to the spot where they're going to be hunting, and there's a long horse ride with some informative dialogue that ends in them camping out for the night, and the game uses this moment to teach you how to cook food before the hunt goes wrong and the two of you barely survive. There's this character named Mary, who is Arthur's old love interest, but they broke up due to Arthur deciding to stick to the gang, and she constantly sends the letters asking for help, and anytime I got these letters, I made that mission my priority because they would always be this fun look at the world around Arthur, while also pissing me off because when you do meet up with Mary, the performances really sell the history between them. Mary constantly says these things like, you're a mess, your life's a mess, if you were with me you wouldn't be a mess. Meanwhile, she's always asking for help because her life is a mess. Yeah, stay away from my man, you toxic bitch. All the robberies, whether it's a bank or a train, are also big and epic and fun, and the realism of the guns and the movements make every punch, every bullet, every explosion and chase feel like this huge adventure where you barely get away with your life. And along with the gameplay and the set pieces, the story just wouldn't be as effective without the right characters, and holy taco on a stick does this game have some really good characters. John Marston is the most familiar, and I actually think he's the weakest character here. In the first game, we see him as this badass who will do anything to get back to his family, but in this game, he really is indifferent to them, and it's not until Jack is kidnapped later on in the game that we see him to start really showing more that he has a protective side. If anything, I actually think he's a bit more dumbed down in this one. The other side of that spectrum is Dutch. When we meet him in the first game, he's this calm, collected, almost broken man. When we meet him in this game, he's loud, he's kind of annoying, he's overly positive, always talking about hope, always talking about look up, always talking about Tahiti.
Harvesting mangoes in Tahiti.
We was headed to Tahiti.
Tahiti? Tahiti.
Where the hell is Tahiti?
South Pacific, an untouched paradise.
Who lives there?
Tahitians, I guess.
With that being said, his very slow but sure downfall into confusion and selfish near insanity is one of the most gripping and enthralling and frustrating to witness, because you share Arthur's and Hosea's and John's feelings about, hey, maybe we're going about this all wrong, but he never listens because he's so lost in his own fantasy that he doesn't care who's in danger. He lectures Arthur for saving John because that's going to bring the law down on us. But then remember when I mentioned Rainfalls and Eagle Flies and their different approaches to the whole give us back our land situation? Rainfall doesn't want Eagle Flies to use violence and war to get what they want, but Eagle Flies is frustrated with the way they're being treated. He's tired of being stolen from and forced away from their home among other horrible acts. He's angry and he's ready for war, so when Dutch comes along and uses that anger like, yeah, let's go to war, come on, fuck him up Eagle Flies, fuck him up. And why is he doing this? Because he wants the law to be focused on the war so that the gang can escape. Huh? But you're out there fighting alongside them. Huh? So when he yells at Arthur for saving John because that's gonna draw attention to them, you can't help but feel a little bit, huh? Dutch is a very complicated character, and I mean that in the best way possible. Watching him lose hope as they run out of places to hide, and then seeing the trauma from Guarma and the worsening situation, you feel and understand his desperation. But also the voice in his ear manipulating him, it takes a toll on a man, with that voice being Micah, and good God, I hate Micah. Amazing performance, absolutely memorable villain, but damn do I hate him with every bone in my body. I want to say things about him that won't let me get monetized if I say them, so I won't say them, but fuck you, Micah. And finally, there's Arthur Morgan. Jesus H. Wallaby Sydney, I love this man. He starts off the game as doing horrible things. He's the gang's muscle, but he's also got the brains, and he does some pretty messed up things even when we're taking control of him. And the implications of the things he has done in the past, they're there. But over time, we see him develop this guilt over the things he's done, which is only magnified when he gets diagnosed with tuberculosis, and also starts seeing the way his actions have affected the people around him. Throughout the game, you're given choices to do the honorable or dishonorable thing. And yeah, it's fun to do the dishonorable thing, but the story feels disjointed if you do this because the cutscenes obviously have a preferred path for Arthur. So for the sake of immersion, I went with the honorable choice. When he goes around collecting Strauss's debts and we see the family struggling, it gives you the choice to take the money or forgive the debt, which most of the time was the choice I made. Also, this game has got to have the record for the most coughs recorded into a microphone because... And we haven't even begun to touch on the actual rest of the gang. There are a lot of members, so I won't be going over every member, but every member definitely makes their mark. You spend a ton of time with these people and they are all fleshed out. You get pulled in and they come with their side missions of their own, or you can even take a seat with them and just have optional conversations about the current state of things. When things go their way and they sit around the campfire and joke and sing and celebrate, it really is a feel-good moment, which makes it harder when you get further into the game and the tensions within the group reaches an all-time high. Seeing some of the funnier, more energetic characters become these hopeless pessimists who drown themselves in alcohol by the end of the game, or noticing that there are some members missing from camp only to learn that they took their stuff and they ran off because they were too afraid of what was coming to stick around. It makes you feel exactly what it wants you to feel because of the amount of time that you spent with and protecting these people. So much of this is optional, but it's 1000% worth exploring. There is so much to this game. Starting with the map, it's literally an entire country. It takes such a long time to travel from one side of the map to the other, and you would think that's a problem, but no, not really, because you never know what you're gonna run into while out and about. Red Dead Revolver was an open world, so it never had that problem, but Red Dead Redemption and to an extent Undead Nightmare both suffered from not having too much to do. Sure, there were little events here and there and collectibles, people to rescue, little mini games to play and so on, but none of it was ever all that interesting to me personally. Most of the random events were just lost or injured people that needed a ride back to town. Sure, this game has that too, but that's such a small part in this massive collection of experiences that you can have. And there's no better example than the side missions in this game. There was this one part where I was exploring this town, and this guy comes up to me from this basement window and is like, "Help me please." So I enter the store and force the shopkeeper to show me his basement, where he has that grown man in a baby's outfit, and he has the basement decorated like a child's room. The shopkeeper reveals that his son died, and this man looks exactly like his son, so he decided to keep him in an attempt to replace his son. We free the kidnapped man and leave the shopkeeper groveling on the floor. There's also this lady that moved out to the country from the city with her husband, but her husband died. Now she's struggling on her own, but Arthur comes along to teach her how to defend herself and how to hunt. You can revisit her later throughout the game as Arthur's condition gets worse, and it leads to some moments that feel like they fit right into the main story. There's this mission where you visit a lab and help the guy inside slowly help him build a robot. And yeah, it's a full-on robot and you can get down with him. There is so much in this game. You can run into the KKK, dude. I didn't even get to experience that, but you can do that. There's also this scary murder mystery with a serial killer going around and killing and serialing and whatnot. The side missions in this game feel like their own memorable journeys that have just as much love put into them as the best of the main missions. Also, Arthur Morgan is hot. And that's Red Dead Redemption 2, one of my personal all-time favorite video games. I know it isn't perfect to many people, but to me it's as close to perfect as a video game can be. From the story, the missions, the characters, the voice acting, the music, it's all so gosh dang good. And finally, about a month after the game's release, this was released as a beta. And a year later it was released fully, Red Dead Online, which if you play GT Online, You probably have an idea as to how this goes, except this is kind of way worse. Look, playing alone, I'm gonna be honest here, I think it's really boring. The story presented here is not interested to me in the slightest. Everything in the game costs way too much because obviously they want you to use real money to buy things, and it's just not interesting. But with that being said, playing with a friend is 1000% an improvement in every way. And what better way to show off the fun of Red Dead Online with friends than a little highlight reel. Enjoy.
We're back with another video. What is good?
Here, you got the posse invite?
Yeah, I do that.
Wait.
Fuck my bad. No, you gotta. Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, if you hold L1 next to your horse, he has like other guns on him.
Oh. Damn. Alright. Let's do this. Fuck
Right.
Oh my fucking hell. I can't punch?
Yeah. You have to like get closer or put your gun away. Oh my god, I'm down again.
Get in some cover, bro. Let me just carry real quick, you know.
No, pick me up.
Nah, hold up. I'm
I'm
getting
gonna
shot
die.
at,
I'm gonna
hold
die.
the fuck up.
I'm gonna die. Ah!
Dude, why'd you get down?
Why did?
Look, bruh.
We suck.
Yeah.
Nah, I got
Be
this.
the fucking princess in distress and shit.
Nah, this is your. Who fell off the mountain?
Hey, bro, but then who picked you up? Not once. 1.5, because they almost picked you up. Well, I'm telling you, let's go to the army.
It's not really like this.
We should go to Texas and join the army over there. It's probably like this over there.
No, Texas doesn't have an army.
Aren't they the fellas with the horses and the yeehaw? That's what you get.
Oh my god, I can't eat while I'm carrying this guy.
Wait, what are you eating, you fucking fat?
No, not in real life. You can eat in the game to get health back. So if we want to return him to the police, we refuse his offer. If we want to take his offer, he says he'll pay us and he'll leave.
Alright.
What do you want to do?
Fucking pay up, fool. Give me the money. What's up with the money?
Okay. I'll pick him up, I guess. Nah, this is bad.
Wait, we did the bad choice?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's a criminal.
Is he actually?
Yeah.
Sorry, boy.
No. Now I want to see how much money he's gonna give us.
I
Imagine we
didn't
had...
say what I wanted to say, so.
Oh,
relax.
thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh, fuck! You see what I mean, bro?
Oh shit. Don't put your nasty little feet on my horse's back. Oh my god.
Toma.
I'm leaving.
Alright. You just hold on over there. You're good.
Oh, I walked into a cactus. You see what happens?
I'm gonna take a shot.
Take a shot. That was sick. Ah, we're cowboys, baby.
So, I'm telling you, bro, I got it like that. Like, this is a opportunity 1v1. Bring it out there. What's up? Got my gamer tag. Oh fuck, I'm dead. Sophie?
Yeah, stand next to me.
No, I gotta stand behind you now.
Sure.
Alright.
Get your dick away from me. What is this fucking horse, bro?
It's yours.
Get out of here. Get away from me. Hold on. After the picture, get away from me. Hey, what happened? Actually, Andres, you keep pushing me.
Bro.
God damn, why are you so difficult to take a picture with?
I get handsy, bro.
I know, for real. Oh my god, your horse's ass is in my way. I just see his balls. Alright, face the way I'm facing. If you tie me up, Andres.
No, I'm like a cowboy, you know. Gotta let the last one, the picture, you know.
Bro, your horse came back into frame.
Tell me when.
Alright, right there. Right, face the way I'm facing.
Let's get this side. This is my good side.
Oh yeah? That's sick. Actually, that was a good one. There you go.
Alright.
Oh my god.
Wait, I don't even have my lasso. Take another one.
No, you had your last one in one of them, yeah.
No, take another one.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Get your ass over here.
You'll never see me.
Oh!
Oh! Oh! Shit! Now, pull out your knife.
Huh?
Did your radar turn off?
Yeah.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, Andres, I'm coming.
Are you actually?
I am. Hello. Hello. You're a bitch.
No, you bitch! I didn't have my knife out. How do you block?
Block this. Oh.
Oh.
My bad. Oh. What's up?
Is the room you wanna get fucked up in or what? Ah, wait.
You saw that? Yeah. Wait, okay, be down!
My bad. Where you going, bitch? No, I choked you out. No.
I thought I would have a chance to fight back. Nah, I just heard the. Okay. Give me a smooch. Oh. It's like, oh, what a long day at work. It's a good thing I can unwind and unwind. Oh, you actually scared me. Oh no. That's not fair. It's not fair. Hello. A drink for me and my friend,
Let me
please.
get a Long Island. Ah, yes, the old fucked up. Hey, Mr. Barkeep, one more.
You need to drink 2 more so you're on my level.
Ooh, this one isn't let me. He tapped me out already.
No, he didn't. Go talk to him. One more.
Oh.
No, don't shoot.
Oh.
Oh no, we're at that point of the night, huh?
Woof.
Get one more. I love you, man. You're my best friend. You know that.
This one is for you, Oscar. Man, I fucking love you, dog. Like,
Shit. Let's get another round over here. I don't know what this is.
oh, Vertigo.
My God, you went straight up. My horse.
Hey, we don't talk about the horses.
Okay then.
They're in horsey heaven right now.
Aww.
One star Uber.
It's air conditioning and everything, bro. One
Fool,
star.
I smell horse ass.